This is Joe and Cole with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, I'm going to share with you guys the healthiest nuts money can buy. Now, I'm going to tell you guys straight up, these nuts ain't cheap, but they're some of the healthiest, best tasting nuts that I have ever tasted. And what these guys are, if you guys watch me for a while, you've known I go to the trade show every single year to uncover and reveal the best plant-based, vegan, mostly raw products that are whole food based, so yeah, you can get healthier. I think 2 years ago now, I featured the company Philosopher Foods, which makes the gut nuts. I think at that time, they had maybe the cashew or maybe the almond version. One of these over here. Now they have a peanut version. If you guys haven't seen my Expo West episodes, I'll put the links down below so you guys can keep up to date on some of the most amazing products out there. Last time I was at Expo West, just earlier this year, they had a non-fortified nutritional yeast that has active B12 in it. And you know, I'm all about eating functional foods. How can I get my vitamins and minerals and other nutrients from the foods I eat instead of taking a supplement? And they got me to make the episode today because I want to show you guys a source of vitamin D on a vegan diet, which are these nuts right here. Yes, the gut nuts, the cashew nuts specifically, and to a lesser extent the peanuts, but it didn't show up in the almonds for some reason, actually have vitamin D according to the nutrition facts. We'll throw these up on the screen so you guys can see them. And for one serving, which is 1 ounce of the gut nuts cashew version, it had 7.4 mcg of the vitamin D. And I think we need like 35% of our daily value needs. So if you had like 2 to 3 ounces, you could meet 100% of your daily nutritional requirements of vitamin D, right? In a quote-unquote raw living food. That being said, another food that is plant-based that does also contain vitamin D is the mushrooms. So actually yesterday I bought mushrooms, I laid them out in the sun so they got UV and they created the vitamin D. I cooked them and then I ate them. Of course, I also recommend getting out in the sun to create your own vitamin D, which I also do as well, but in the wintertime when there's not enough sun, I do take a supplement. But I know some of you guys don't want to do supplements, and so that's why I really want to bring you guys this episode, that the gut nuts may be a good source of vitamin D in a plant-based diet if you're not eating mushrooms. I would personally turn to mushrooms before the nuts because honestly, guys, nuts don't contain any vitamin D. It is only because of the fermentation process that these do contain some vitamin D. Some different yeasts, like mushrooms, may make vitamin D during the fermentation process. I'm not sure if they add specific yeast to make the vitamin D or if it's like more of a wild culture. They do use a vegan starter culture to make their gut nuts. I will also show you guys how to make your own style gut nuts if you want. It is not super hard and not rocket science. But today I want to go ahead and we're going to open each one of these gut nuts, show you guys what they look like. I'm going to do taste testings of each one, as well as we're going to go over the benefits of the gut nuts as proven by science. So the first step is I want to share with you guys how these gut nuts are made. So they source regeneratively organic or are working on getting their organic sources to grow them regeneratively. That's step number one. Step number two is that then they soak the nuts. So this acts as like the sprouting step. So they're sprouting. Then at that point, they will then probably drain off the water, add new water, and then add a vegan starter culture. You know, they're probably not just using off-the-shelf probiotics. They're using probably, specific probiotics meant for culturing plant foods. There's many different companies that sell starter cultures out there, so you'd want to look up getting a vegan starter culture if you want to do it yourself, right? And then they soak these bad boys for a total of 10 days. They're soaking in the starter culture. They probably got, some kind of mesh over it so things don't get in there. If I was doing it, I would probably put it in mason jars that are under vacuum. So that's going to encourage the good microbes and not encourage the mold to grow, and make sure that the nuts are underneath the water line. Okay, that's very important. The next thing they do is once it's done with the fermentation process, they will dehydrate it at a low temperature. The owner of Philosopher Foods was formerly a raw vegan, so he's quite aware about processing temperatures and processing things as minimally as possible to maintain the most nutrition. So that's completely cool that a former raw vegan owns this company. So the other thing I'd like to say is that to me, nuts are a healthy food. They're a whole food source of fats as well as other proteins, vitamins, and minerals. I encourage you guys always to buy your raw nuts and either eat them raw or soak them and then dehydrate them, or even better yet, soak them and then ferment them and then dehydrate them to eat them. So, this is how I'll be using these nuts to eat, but also I'll be using these nuts in recipes because they're a more nutritious nut than what is normally eaten out there. Most people eat roasted nuts, and we all know roasted nuts can have huge problems. There are carcinogens created when nuts are roasted at high temperatures. I don't recommend you guys eat any roasted nuts. So there's a comparison we'll throw up right here on the screen of the gut nuts to roasted nuts. So of course, gut nuts have a unique flavor, different than any raw nut or roasted nut you will ever taste. They'll describe it as a popping texture in your mouth. I don't know that I'd call it popping, but I'll say it is a unique texture in your mouth. It also has more prebiotics and postbiotics because it is basically a fermented nut. You could call it a living food. It has more vitamin B and D vitamins than the nuts originally had because the yeast and the bacteria create some of these B vitamins. In addition, of course, they are sprouted, so that's beyond raw. Next, they have more antioxidants proven by science because when you roast nuts, you decrease antioxidants. When you sprout, and more importantly, ferment things, the antioxidants increase, and you have, more importantly, fewer toxins and pollutants for two reasons in the gut nuts. Number one, they're soaking them out, and this may wash off some toxins. They're sprouting them, which can also reduce some of the toxins, such as phytates. But then even to the next level, they are now fermenting them with bacteria that now can eat up, basically, some of the things like glyphosate, for example, or even aflatoxin in peanuts, maybe even some of the bad bacteria on there, and may further digest some of the phytates that we're not getting them in us. All right, so talking about phytates and other nutrients and how they are increased in the gut nuts, I have some information I took from the Philosopher Foods website. We'll throw up on the screen over here somewhere so you guys can see. So this is they compared the gut nuts almond, right? Because they sent out their nuts to UC Davis to do studies and find out, hey, these are our original almonds, these are our gut nuts. Compare these and do all the nutrient analysis to see what's different between the raw nuts and our gut nuts. So this is what they came up with. Vitamin B1 was increased by 714%. Once again, fermentation increases a lot of the B vitamins. B5 was increased by 119%. Vitamin B9 was increased by 466%. Total phytochemicals, that's what I'm really about, are increased by 179%. So literally, these are more nutritious than eating them raw. Total phenols, which I'm also into, was a whopping 1,464% higher. That is insane, guys. And then the total flavonoids increased by 428%. Guys, these are literally super nuts right here. Total quinic acids increased by 49%. Total catechins, which are basically like in the green tea, increased by 40%. The chromium, or mineral, was increased by 33%. And I would surmise this may be due to the reduction of phytic acid, which can bind minerals. Of course, also, maybe the bacteria and the yeasts fermenting this may make some minerals more bioavailable as well. In addition, the iron went up by 10%. The molybdenum went up by 24%. The silica went up by a whopping 402%. And the strontium went up by 15%. So these are amazing gains for literally just soaking and then fermenting your nuts. Okay. Next up, what is reduced? We'll throw up right here the table. What is reduced? when you do the soaking and fermentation of your nuts. Number one is the sugars, such as the sucrose and the D-maltose, right? The sugars are reduced by 91%. The maltose is reduced by 94%. Basically, the bacteria and the yeast eat up the sugars, right? And then they create B vitamins and other things that you learned about. In addition, the phytic acid was reduced by 41% after soaking and sprouting and then fermenting these nuts. And the oxalic acid also was reduced by 28%. That can bind calcium. And, you know, I know some of you guys are trying to eat lower oxalic acid. So yeah, that's some of the benefits of these gut nuts. Once again, increase in nutrients, decrease in anti-nutrients. I will say that all these add some salt to the mix to make them taste good. I would probably be perfectly happy if they did not add the salt. Of the three different ones, the almonds have the least salt added, all right? So next up in this episode, we're just gonna go ahead and cut these bags open. These are the supersized bags, guys. I buy in bulk to save more money. And if you guys want to save money too on these gut nuts, I found a coupon online that hopefully that worked when I ordered. Maybe it'll still work when you order. It's called New20. And you could order at bit.ly/gutnuts. That is an affiliate link. I signed up as an affiliate with them because I'm happy to promote companies that do good work. All right. So let's see. We got all these cut open. I would encourage you guys always cut these open instead of rip them open, because when I rip them open, sometimes it messes up the zipper seal. All right. So first up, this is the one I'm most excited about, because this is fermented peanuts, guys. These are organically grown peanuts that are raw, grown in Texas. Check it out, guys. These are insane. These are raw peanuts. You know, normally I wouldn't necessarily recommend eating raw peanuts because of the fact that they can contain aflatoxin. Of course, these peanuts were tested aflatoxin free when they got them in to Philosopher Foods before they soaked them and sprouted them and then fermented them. But, you know this, once again, the fermentation process and their process will reduce the aflatoxin. So yeah, I'm really excited to eat these like peanuts in just a little bit. Here is the almonds. The almonds kind of look more like traditional almonds. They're a little bit more lighter. The peanuts are kind of like, I think they're mostly halves. Maybe I see a few holes in there. On the other hand, the almonds are pretty much whole almonds. And then last up, we have the cashews. Cashews, they're not sourcing the really raw cashews. So these are the heat processed, probably steamed cashews, organic when they buy them. They then put them through a soaking process and then fermentation process. They do have some oxygen absorbers in here that you will not want to eat, or moisture absorbers. And then on the cashews, these guys are mostly the halves. They're not the whole, right? So if you guys are doing your own home fermentation, I would recommend you guys getting, you know, the splits, because there's going to be more surface area for the bacteria to react upon instead of the whole, you know, nut themselves, all right? So yeah, this is the cashews right here. They look like just raw cashews, a bit darker. The almonds look like just whole raw almonds, maybe a little bit fluffed up, a little bit bigger and a bit lighter. And the peanuts pretty much just look like peanuts. So let's see, I'll try the cashews first for you guys, because I've had this recently. And so we're just gonna try a couple here. All right, guys, so these taste like no other cashews you've ever had in your life. I will say they did not over-salt them. Of course, you know, maybe lesser salt would be better. That being said, what these cashews remind me about eating is sourdough bread. I haven't had sourdough bread in like millions of years. I mean, I was born in San Francisco. We'd go down to Fisherman's Wharf when I was a kid and have the best sourdough bread. But these raw, sprouted, fermented cashews remind me of eating sourdough bread, because they have that same kind of like sourdough flavor. Completely incredible. So you know how I'm going to use these is like if I'm making a dressing. I could just do like orange juice with these cashew dressing and have like a sourdough orange dressing. You know, I could use tomatoes and peppers from my garden. Blend this up and have like a, you know, tomato pepper dressing with the taste of fermented cashews. I mean, oftentimes I will also put like fermented kimchi in my dressings as well to add a little bit of flavor and spice and the umami flavor, you know, that you're probably not getting unless you're eating fermented foods that I enjoy so much. So yeah, cashews were definitely good. Next up, let's go ahead and try the fermented almonds. A lot lighter texture than just regular raw almonds because these are fermented. They crunch in your mouth. I mean, these are good. It's totally like a little bit different flavor than the cashews. Like I could taste that they're fermented. Because they have the skin, you still got some of the tannins in there. I'm tasting those. Definitely lower salt content in these according to my taste buds and the nutrition facts on the package. I mean, I'm going to say these are good. These have a slightly fermented flavor. Umami. And yeah, less salt. So yeah, that was quite interesting. I mean, between the two, I would say the cashews, number one. Almonds, number two. But I'm really looking forward to trying the peanuts. Because I think I had the almonds at the trade show before. Maybe the cashews at the trade show. But the peanuts are a brand new product. Alright guys, so now I get to try the peanuts. I'm so excited. I mean, these look like peanuts I might have had when I was a kid. And I basically avoided peanuts because most peanuts are roasted. I think one of the things I'm going to try to do is I'm going to basically use these peanuts and turn it into like a nut butter. So it's going to be like a fermented raw peanut butter because these are soaked, sprouted, and then fermented. And so yeah, we're just going to grab a handful of these guys and pop them in the mouth. Alright guys, so that's totally unique and different, right? I've had like raw peanuts before, and to me they're not very tasty. You know, of course, when they're roasted, they taste better because all the toxins created and the browning and all this stuff, the Maillard reaction. I'm going to say, you know, these peanuts are definitely better than tasting them raw. I do get that fermented flavor. It's not as strong as in the cashews that have the really pronounced, like, whoa, I'm eating like sourdough bread. To me, the peanuts are a little bit stronger. You know, the fermented flavor, which I prefer. Maybe you guys don't like that, and then you want the almonds. But I really love that fermented flavor. It's the umami flavor. And, you know, that's less pronounced in the peanuts than the cashews, but a little bit more than the almonds. Now, the other thing I want to say, and it's really hard for me to put into words how these taste. I mean, the cashews clearly tasted like sourdough bread, like so close. These ones taste like definitely a fermented product, you know, but it's hard to like put my finger on like what fermented product it tastes like. I will say, you know, these are both tree nuts, of course. The cashew nut grows an appendage off the fruit itself, and the almonds is the seed of a fruit. Actually, I picked raw almonds right off the tree the other day, a couple days ago here in my city. And then, of course, the peanuts are not a tree nut at all. They are technically a legume. So, you know, if you guys are not eating legumes, right, because you guys eat nuts, not eating legumes because you're a raw vegan, you want to be strict, right? I cook beans in the Instant Pot. Actually, I had some of my lupini beans that are high protein. Link down below to my video on the lupini beans and why I include them for the high protein content. I think it'd be a good thing for you guys to get the peanuts so that you guys could expand your diversity of different kinds of plant foods, especially ones that you would not normally eat. Normally peanuts, I don't recommend eating them raw due to the aflatoxin problem. But when they, you know, these are organic, they've tested for aflatoxin as well as soaking them, spouting them, and then fermenting them, which then reduces the aflatoxin even more and makes them safer to eat. And of course, these are lower fat and higher in protein. And so that's what I'll tell you guys in this episode. You guys learn about the cashews that taste the best, have the sourdough flavor, contain the most vitamin D. The peanuts have the second most amount of vitamin D, and there's not detected vitamin D in the the almonds. If you guys want to try these gut nuts for yourself, once again, link down below, bit.ly/gutnuts, and use the coupon code NEW20 for 20% off if that coupon code still works. I just found that coupon online, and that made about each pound when I bought the 4-pound pack, because all these have the same price, and so each pound of the gut nuts were about $16 a pound. So yes, it's a bit pricey, but you know, they're doing all the work, and I can enjoy the benefit of fermented nuts without having to do it myself. I know a lot of you guys may want to source your own nuts and then ferment them yourself, and in this episode I've shared with you guys how to do it yourself. It's not rocket science. So yeah, thumbs up to Philosopher Foods to making these products available, and also creating more awareness about sprouting, and more important than sprouting and then fermenting your nuts so they could have more prebiotics, more probiotics, as well as have an amazing flavor that can enhance all the different recipes you eat, and even make eating nuts more enjoyable than they already are. I am all in favor of eating more whole food sources of fats, especially when they're soaked, sprouted, and then fermented, to reduce the levels of the anti-nutrients and increase things like the polyphenols, the flavonoids, antioxidants, the B vitamins, even vitamin D, as well as some of the minerals. So if you guys enjoyed this content today, want more videos where I deep dive into crazy other foods I like to eat, please be sure to give this away a big thumbs up. These are episodes you're not going to see on other raw vegan channels, because I've been doing this literally for 30 years, and I take it to the extreme. Also, be sure to share this with other raw vegans so that they can up their nut game by not eating soaked and sprouted, but soaked, sprouted, and fermented nuts to take their nut elevation to the next level. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new upcoming episodes of coming in 5 some days. You learn more what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are wealth of knowledge. Over 850 episodes at this time on this channel, dedicated to teach you guys all about how to eat the healthiest plant-based raw fruit and vegetable diet out there. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep eating your gut nuts. They're always the best.